Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've met women.
That's beginning to grow on me, strangely. The plan was to make it a little sillier each time, but that's a big ask. This is a very Australian edition of the Godless Spell Checker Christmas podcast. I find when people are discussing somewhere as iconic as Australia, they have a tendency to fall into cheap cultural stereotypes and cliches, which is far too easy and a little ignorant and possibly disrespectful, so I'm going to be a professional. Joining me now from a land down under, we have Mr. Atheist.
Hello.
And Mr. Adam Reakes.
Greetings, humans.
How are you doing?
Extra good.
Brilliant. I've been looking forward to speaking to you two and getting an Australian perspective on Christmas. Adam, what do you typically do on a Christmas day?
My assumed role throughout the day is the barista, so I take down my coffee machine and stand there avoiding conversation with people, taking orders. And it's a pretty social affair. There's no gift giving. We're at the stage where all the kids have grown up, and none of my sisters have children or my cousins. So yet, although my younger sister is about to have a baby and is due on Christmas Day, and I've got dibs on the name Jesus if it's a boy.
What do you typically do on Christmas Day, Donovan?
Normally, my Christmas family thing, it did start on Christmas Eve. And I'd go and see my dad with my sister and my brother. He passed away a couple of years ago, so obviously we don't do that anymore. And then Christmas morning will be with my girlfriend, and then either my ex-wife will drop my girls off or I'll go and pick them up and we'll do a bit of a thing with them. So basically me and my ex-wife, we share our girls around a little bit on the day, and then we'll go probably to my girlfriend's either one of her family, like either her grandmother or one of her cousins' places, and they host a Christmas thing that's pretty much the whole day. Somewhere around those days, try and fit in spending time with my mum as well. She lives about 300 k's away from here, which I realise for most European people that means driving to a whole nother country, but here it's just up the road, so we try and take a trip out to see her as well, but it's so hard. And then Boxing Day is huge. My dad was one of 10 kids, so they've all but one got kids of their own. It used to be hosted by my dad's parents, and they've since passed away, so now one of his brothers or sisters will host Boxing Day every day. It used to be on Christmas Day when they were alive, and we'd all go over, and some of my aunts and uncles were still at home when I started going to that, and now there's up to probably 50 or 60 people rock up at someone's house on Boxing Day, and it's all one family. They were Catholics. Don't know if you could tell.
The older you get, and sort of the veil of the magic of Christmas disappears, and you slowly become the people that other people flock to. You become other people's Christmas. You're not sort of the kid anymore that goes to an auntie or an uncle. You sort of become that auntie or uncle.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's really good though. The Boxing Day one is great. Like you get sort of little pockets all set up in their circles, but then eventually, like one of my uncles in particular, or one of two usually, say, "Righto, everyone," and we all have to form a big circle, and it's a big chat, and depending on whose place it is, they might get a fire going or something like that, and it can go into the night sometimes, it's really cool.
Adam, I was going to ask you if there's anything that particularly annoys you about the holiday season.
I think probably it's more important to spend some quality time with your family, and certainly people who you haven't had the opportunity to spend time with throughout the year. When I was a bit younger, I used to work in retail, and so you never got Boxing Day. Boxing Day was the biggest retail day of the year in Australia. So I'd often have to work it, which was a relief in the sense that I didn't have to spend time with my family, but rather annoying that I didn't get to spend time with my family.
Nothing says Christmas like trying to avoid spending time with your family.
I give them a hard time, but it's unwarranted. I've got a great family, and we do enjoy all getting together. The magic of gift giving has certainly worn off, but we get a greater reward in just finding out what happened throughout the year. A lot of family friends send us Christmas letters, and just say, oh, here's what the kids did this year, here's what we did this year, we've retired, we bought a caravan, we're doing this, we're doing X, Y, Z. And we'll sort of pass those around throughout the course of the day and talk about it and just sort of have the annual catch-up.
Talking of gifts, Donovan, what's the best Christmas present you've ever had?
Oh, jeez. That's hard. The best reveal I ever had that I remember was I really wanted a BMX bike. I was about 23 or 24 at the time. No, I think I was 11, 10 or 11. It was one of my last Santa Christmases, and there was no sign of it. And my sister wanted a pair of roller skates, and my mum said to me, "There's one more present for Dad out in the garage if you want to go and get it." And I said, "Beauty." And my sister and I went out and we lifted up the garage door, and there's my bike and there's the roller skates sitting there. So that was a really cool reveal.
There's something about the BMX which is just a sort of a rite of passage for a young boy, I think, at Christmas.
Oh yeah, if you go out here at 6 or 7 o'clock on Christmas morning, if you go more than 50 meters without seeing a kid on a bike, I'd be very surprised. It's just the done thing. You're right, a rite of passage, definitely.
My dad actually constructed sort of a cardboard house, complete with roof, to sort of conceal the bike on Christmas Day, and then put wrapping paper on the outside. So I thought I had some sort of bizarre Wendy house. But I was strangely disappointed I didn't have a Wendy house. The bike
of course
was all right. Adam, any memorable presents for you?
Yeah, when about the same time that it was sort of approaching the end of the belief in fictional deities being Santa Claus, I received it was quite a group. This beautiful blue bunny rabbit. It was like a teddy bear style bunny rabbit. And it had this enormous penis on it. It was just this. It looked so innocent, unless and it had the softest pubic hair. It was amazing. So, in terms of confronting Christmas presents, Jesus.
What sort of role does religion play in sort of an Australian Christmas? Is it in your face much, or is it something that doesn't really trespass on your day?
You see the odd nativity scene. I know one place, they've got a couple of suburbs away from me, they've got a big clock tower with a bit of a yard around it in sort of in the middle of town, and they put up a nativity scene all the time. But it's really much more just it's Christmas trees, it's decorations. I know a lot of churches will do a midnight mass, and like I said before, my entire family is Catholic, and I rock up Boxing Day, and I don't hear the word Jesus or religion or God or anything like that. It's a celebration now, almost just for the sake of celebrating. Like all the churches will obviously put up their signs, and there's enough churches around that you'll spot one if you go for a drive. But really doesn't feel to me, and the way I celebrate it, as a religious event at all.
You see, I read a little bit, perhaps you obviously know more about this than me, but this sort of a service, a carols by candlelight.
Yes, we have that.
Oh, God. That happens in Sydney. Carols
You
by
have
candlelight
the
in
cheap
Sydney.
rip-off one. Melbourne has the big proper one.
No, we're fighting over who has the most obnoxious Christmas tradition here, as though it's some sort of reward.
Yeah, it gets thousands. Like probably, I would guess 50,000 people might show up. I don't know. But a lot of people, and yeah, it screens on our screens on Christmas Eve, and it's huge.
That's one of the things, sort of a religious strength, is they have this ritual and sense of community. So there'll be a lot of people who attend these events who are not devout in any meaningful sense, but this gives them a sense of Christmas. And I don't think there's really a sort of secular alternative to it.
No, there's probably not. Like, I was watching something on TV just in the last couple of days, and someone said, "Are you Christian?" And they said, Easter and Christmas." And I think that's the vast majority of Australian Christians are like that. I don't know. I maybe know one or two people that go to church regularly. Event Christians. They're Christmas, Easter, that kind of thing.
Doing a bit of research before I came across a word, and I'm still no wiser as to what it means, so I'm just going to say it. It's Tang Malang Maloo.
All right.
Now, I was hoping you'd know what that meant, because it's supposed to be a famous Australian Christmas poem.
Oh, I feel like I've let the country down.
This is going to keep me awake for weeks unless we get to the bottom of Tang Malang Maloo.
Yeah.
It's a poet by the name of John O'Brien.
I've got it up here now. I don't recognise it.
Right, fuck that then.
Doesn't need to go on the show.
Favourite Christmas movie?
I really like Love Actually.
I like that too.
Well, it's set at Christmas time, so I don't know if it's actually a Christmas movie, but it is set at Christmas time, and I really like it.
Yeah, the sort of comedy rom-com arrangements.
I'm more of a sort of a Lethal Weapon kind of. I see that as sort of a movie.
Do you watch any movies on correcting people's punctuation? Got a spell checker?
Do you have some you could recommend? Because it's a revelation.
It's a difficult topic. I'm sure there's an opening in the market for a film about spell checking.
We've got a local superhero in Manchester. I forgot what's he called. I think he's called the Night Warrior, and he paroles the streets of an evening and hands sandwiches to homeless people and makes sure people, drunk people are okay. And I was thinking maybe I could affect a similar sort of attitude, but for grammar and punctuation.
Yes.
What going around and correcting the spelling and punctuation on homeless people's signs? You don't think that's a little bit tasteless?
Yeah, I've been in trouble for this before. I was on a long commute home, and I just thought, I'll tweet something, I need some amusement. So I invented a homeless guy in my head, and I said something along the lines of, I've just seen a homeless man with a sign saying, "I ain't got no food," which was really upsetting. I hate bad grammar.
Unfollow.
Yeah. Somebody just said, "Well, did you not go and help him?"
Oh, I think I tweeted once words to the effect of, no matter how obvious the joke is that you tweet, someone will think you're serious.
Yeah.
I've said some ridiculous things, and people say, "Oh, but really, blah blah blah," and I think, yeah, I know. Probably the best one wasn't even atheism related. I said something like, "I'd watch Breaking Bad if only someone would tweet about it being good," and several people said, "Oh no, it is good. You should check it out." And I'm thinking, yeah.
If I get really bored, I'll tweet out a fact, shall we say? I'll hashtag it capitals fact, and I always see how far I can push it. I think one of them was something like the Great Wall of China is actually imported rock from the USA. Someone just replied with bullshit.
You mentioned that you make something up and people take it seriously. I suspect we're wired for that as human beings, and this is exactly how religion started. Yeah. You've only got to look at the life of Brian for that.
I think I'm too skeptical. Someone will say good morning, and I'll go, "Is it?"
That's a prick of a response. I hate it when people do that. Good morning. Yeah, what's good about it? Oh, fuck you then.
No, to be honest, I'm so naturally chirpy. It's probably more irritating than if I was miserable, to be fair.
We definitely have to listen to other people, particularly when we're young. And the example that I always give is because something's hot. You need to trust your elders, because when they say that's hot, don't touch it, you have to listen to them, otherwise you'll be injured. So I'm assuming an evolutionary reason for that.
We have an enormous dependence on our parents because of the size of our brains. We're completely dependent on our parents for the first... at what point can a child become independent and feed themselves?
5.
Yeah, 5?
I've read that there's studies of homeless children, I want to say in India, but I don't know, it might have been Bangladesh or somewhere, but by the time they're 5, they can scavenge food and get shelter and that kind of thing pretty much on their own.
Yeah, have a look in the natural world. when a horse
a worker bee
is born,
yeah,
when a horse is born, exactly. It's up and running within an hour.
Yeah, so a worker bee is working within the first minute.
Yeah, wow. What a life.
yeah. So there is definitely that extra time that we take to mature, and it's because we learn, because we go to school and things like that, and that's what makes us so dependent on believing what we're told. I don't blame the people who came up with religion for doing so. Like, you look at an eclipse, at lightning, even at life itself, when you've got no method of understanding, no method of investigation whatsoever, and your knowledge of the universe is all but zero. Well, I can understand making gods up then. I really can. Suddenly everyone's believing it because it's said with authority. I think it's even said with belief. 2,000 years later, or just on, you've got 2 billion Christians on the planet, and I reckon 95% of those Christians were born into Christian households. It's just almost self-perpetuating. But now that we do have methods of investigation, and we know that we don't need to yell at an eclipse, because there's a big gold dog taking a bite out of the sun.
Well, you might not have to. I do.
Hey, no, I'm saying we don't have to. Look, if you want to go out and do that on your own free time, just go ahead.
Well, all you know, I've saved the world for as long as I've been alive. So I've been having a discussion with somebody on Twitter, probably over the last 4 or 5 days. She's a Christian. I explained to her, look, I think there's a degree of confirmation bias here. You're praying, and if you pray all week for rain, and then on one day it rains, then it reinforces your opinion. What's confirmation bias? So I gave her a couple of the friendlier memes to, I didn't want to be insulting because I thought she was giving it a real shot. And then she said, so you've never had God? You've never accepted God into your life? And I said, so you've completely neglected everything I've just said. She said, okay, did you ever try? I said, yes, I tried as a child, but I managed to see past it. And she said, well, God will speak to you. You just have to let him.
I hear that quite a lot, and what they're essentially saying is it's your fault that my omnipotent creator appears non-existent.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Laying blame. This one's been in the news recently with Pat Robertson telling a mother of a deaf child. She said, oh, look, I've been praying and he's still deaf. Pat Robertson said, well, I've imbuked the Holy Spirit for deafness before, and basically you're just doing it wrong.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you're praying wrong. How the fuck can you pray wrong?
Sort of, it's psychic mediums. You can't see the inverted quotation marks I'm making furiously. They employ the same techniques of, I can't get a reading on your dead grandma. There's too much negative energy in the room. Yeah, it's your fault. I can't do my frigging job.
One of my most popular, most retweeted tweets was a screenshot of a psychic's website. And it said that the show in Dublin has been cancelled due to unforeseen circumstances. That is brilliant.
Hot reading and cold reading. Once you've had your eyes open to the techniques, you sort of feel you could probably do it yourself.
I'm prepared to give you a cold reading over the phone, Godless Spell Checker.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing unfounded beliefs.
Okay.
I'm seeing frustration. I'm seeing the misuse of the I before E except after C rule.
Is it Twitter related, perhaps?
That's right. I'm seeing a T.
You guys have probably seen it, but there's a great conversation between Richard Dawkins and Derek Brown, the sort of UK-based illusionist, and they have a great discussion about psychics and all the techniques they use and how they get away with what they get away with, and it's an eye-opener. If you're someone who believes in psychics, and I mean, I know people who, I try and talk them out of it all the time, who go and visit them for this and that. I always say, I'll lie to you for free if you like.
Nice.
It's one of my pet hates, psychics. I think I think they get me a little bit more angry than religious people do.
Crystals is one of my pet hates.
Got a thing against strippers?
Crystals and beliefs in aligning chakras and finding balance and misappropriating the benefits that you get, or attributing the benefits that you get from just taking 10 minutes out of your life to chill out. And saying, okay, yes, it was this crystal. And I know this because I grew up in a household where this sort of stuff was commonplace.
Do you reckon there's any psychics that believe themselves?
I think the majority are charlatans. I think your big stage show guys with the big following and the massive tours, they're all liars. But I think there are some people who do think they have a gift.
They might be just good at reading people, like Darren Brown is, obviously, but he fully admits that, and I think he probably trains on it and things like that. and so I think they convince themselves when it's just something that they can do that's normal.
I mean, what's funny about that is that there's actually, I mean, what you're talking about there is intuition, which is incredibly powerful in terms of gesticulation and body language, and you'll be surprised how little these gifts for intuition filter into a psychic. Even Derren Brown, it's always a combination of hot reading, cold reading, and Barnum statements and things like that, rather than any sort of sense at that.
Okay.
I've been to a Derren Brown show.
Oh, have you? Oh, jealous.
Yeah, well, I was on the front row, and the first thing he did when he came to the stage is hand a microphone to me.
All right, I'm looking up all his shows now.
Yeah, well, I was gutted because it wasn't on any of the DVDs. It was just some.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the ones that wasn't. But he basically had this whole thing set up from the start where you'd have to write a couple of favourite things on a piece of paper, put it in a basket on the stage, and when he came out, he'd go to the basket, hand it, lean over to put someone on the front row, which is me, make them take a piece of paper, and I'd have to keep that piece of paper, and only I could see the 3 words on there. He'd give me the microphone, and he'd say, right, look at the words on the piece of paper, and say the first word that comes into your head that isn't that word. And he went he went through this whole rigmarole of pretending to read my body language, telling me what my personality type was, and I was saying random words. Like, the first thing that came to my head, I said cleft. Only because I think it's got a funny sound. I thought,
Yeah.
And he went through this whole rigmarole and dressed it up as if he could read me, and then he got them all right in the end perfectly. So everyone was amazed and thinks he's got some great intuition and can read the minute bit of detail of someone's facial twitch or whatever. But the simple fact was, it was a very simple trick. What had happened is, before he came out, or during or whatever, they just switched him somehow. They'd done an old switcheroo on us. So he knew exactly what was on that piece of paper when it was in my hand.
Yeah.
So for the next quarter of an hour, he can dress it up in any dress he wants.
Ah, nice. Yeah.
And just pretend he's getting this reading and that reading, and that's the beauty. It's the showmanship.
He did one. I saw one that was on our TV here, and he threw like a newspaper out into the crowd and got it thrown around, and he eventually got it down to what we thought was randomly one person finding one word on one page. I think it was extraordinary, the word, or something like that, an EX word. And he had that word on a big banner up on the stage that dropped down when the person said it. And then he revealed how he just prompted everyone with this word, and he kept saying this word throughout the show and giving people clues.
See, that's the other thing he does. He gives you this pseudo-scientific explanation post-trick to throw you off the scent of what he's just done. Half the time, I don't really think he feeds you these sort of signals. And
he admits that he is part show.
Yeah.
So even like we know his tricks are tricks, but yeah, there's got to be an element to the reveal. Is this what you're saying, that is still trickery?
It's all trick. He did one in the UK. I don't know if you saw it, but he predicted the lottery numbers. I say predict, but he's shown them a second after they was announced, which is a weird prediction. But he went through this whole rigmarole of how he'd crunched numbers for months and worked out probabilities this, here, and there, and used these formulas and blah blah blah. And he hadn't. It's just a simple trick, but give you the best thing. I heard him describe it once. I think he said something like, "He's always honest about his dishonesty."
Yeah.
I don't want people to think I'm the kind of person who's going to shy away from serious topics.
No, the big questions.
I actually have to ask it. In your view, who'd win in a fight between Jesus and Santa?
I think Santa's got him covered for weight.
I think that I'm going to have to go with Santa as well, because there's evidence that he exists.
Right.
just ask any child.
So the Son of God conclusively knocked out by Santa. You've heard it here first.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
My preference for Christmas would be that it's more a commercial holiday than a religious one, because from a commercial standpoint, it benefits economies to an enormous degree. I mean, there's entire businesses, there's segments of society that are affected around that particular event, and the amount of revenue that it generates for people's livelihoods is phenomenal.
It's a lot of landfill, a lot of this huge environmental impact.
Yeah, there is. That's why my Christmas tree is exactly 12 centimetres tall. It's tiny. It's tiny. Yeah, I try and minimise as much waste as I possibly can, but I understand that not everybody does, and certainly a lot of businesses don't have the time to recycle and implement techniques to minimise their waste for one event per year. So yeah, you're right. There's a huge amount of waste.
Before we go, I'll ask you both a question. Christmas, yes or no? If you could get rid of it, would you?
No, I love Christmas.
Of course not.
It's always been I mean, I was christened and I went to a faith school, but I always lived in a secular household. There was never any mention of God in my house. It was never about Jesus. I was never told, you must be good because God's watching you. It was always, don't do that because it's wrong. Don't do this because of this. And
Yep.
so Christmas is today what it was when I was 5. It's seeing my family and just having a giggle, really. And I love Christmas.
Yeah, my sentiments exactly. I love it. It's a great time. I do, I'll do a work function. I'll do a friends function. Because of different family aspects. I'll do a few family things as well, and it's great. And yeah, I've got no problem with it. I've got no problem with calling it Christmas. I don't care that. We'll start to see really soon the tweets that have the Christ part of Christmas in capitals. I think it's called Christmas,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, whatever. I don't care. If you want to celebrate it as the birth of Jesus, even though he wasn't born then, most likely if he was born at all, I don't care. Do it, but you don't get the right to tell me that I can't celebrate it. You don't get the right to tell me how I celebrate it, or anything like that. And if there's one message that I could get out about Christmas is just if
there's no pagan in Christmas.
Yes. If the way you celebrate it doesn't infringe on how anyone else wants to celebrate it, then celebrate it however you like. Do it in a Christian way. Do it in a secular way. Do Giftmas or Christmas or Festivus or whatever you want to call it. Whatever. But just have fun yourself. Don't let that fun negatively impact on someone else, and let everyone else have fun as well. And surely we're all just going to go away and be happy.
Your methodology there, Donovan, is applied. Exactly the same methodology can be applied to gay marriage. Do whatever you want.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If it doesn't affect anyone else, happy days.
Yeah, I had a guy just the other day saying that we're trying. The gays. He actually said the gays are trying to force gay marriage onto everyone else, and I just shook my head. I thought, what the? It just.
How much do you cringe when you come across this viewpoint? Sometimes it starts off okay and then it descends quickly. It's something along the lines of I'm okay with gay marriage as long as they keep away from my kids.
Yeah, we've got a guy. He's a failed politician. He tried to get into Parliament and was dismal. And he's on record as saying he wouldn't let a gay person teach his kids in school and things like that.
Oh, you're referring to Bernard Gaynor.
I am referring to Bernard Gaynor. Yes.
And he's agreed to come on my show, but it's been radio silence ever since. And Bernard, if you're listening, I know you are because you're a big fan of Atheist Podcast. Come on my show, answer the emails, answer the tweets. Let's hear it. Very well.
Going back to place names, my favourite, I think, is Woolloomooloo, because I remember hearing that when I was a kid and I assumed it was out the back of nowhere, like, miles from anywhere. And I remember finding out it was, pretty much in the heart of Sydney.
Woolloomooloo.
Woolloomooloo.
How to dispel them bollocks on Trent or whatever you've got up there. Big fan of the name Scunthorpe.
Yeah, we've got. This always amuses me. I only discovered this. I was about 12 there. We've got a Charlton Cum Hardy.
Jeez.
Yep.
Puts the pressure on, doesn't it?
We've got I think, somewhere in Wales called Knob End as well.
That's true. I'm familiar with Knob End. Did we even talk about Christmas at some point?
No, I did. I should probably have thought of some Christmas questions. Did you guys have sprouts in Australia? Is that a Christmas staple at all?
It's in Brussels sprouts?
Yeah.
They are the food of the devil.
I agree. It's mandatory at Christmas for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Even as an adult now at Christmas dinner, I'm only afforded the privilege of negotiating how many sprouts I have.
Wow. I can barely be in the same room as them.
Pre or post sprout?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for having us on. It's been great.
Yes.
Cheers, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure as usual. Thanks for listening to the Godless Spell Checker Christmas Podcast Australian edition. You can check out Mr. Oz Atheist on his Twitter feed at Mr. Oz Atheist. Also, there'll be a link to his blog there. You should definitely have a look at that. Also, if you're curious to hear what a proper podcast sounds like, you can listen to Mr. Adam Reakes host The Herd Mentality, and you can find that at herdmentalitypodcast.com. I think we've all learned something here today.
The Godless Spell Checker Christmas Podcast!